Thank you, Jim. I've got to say that introduction was the most recent I've ever had. So, I did ask Jim to give a short introduction. First of all, we've got some very important topics to talk about as we're talking about both the poor and the incarcerated. But secondly, I'm also thinking about a fellow trial lawyer that we have, a man by the name of Chauncey Depew. Now, most of you don't remember Chauncey Depew. He was a very famous trial lawyer, a well-known appellate advocate. He was an often sought after dinner speaker, a raconteur, and he had the ultimate challenge, which was to introduce the great William Howard Taft, the only man who's been both President of the United States and Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And Chauncey, as some of us trial lawyers want to do, got a little carried away. It took him 45 minutes to introduce the great William Howard Taft. And he ended it with a flourish, again, as we trial lawyers sometimes do. He said, "I present to you a man pregnant with a sense of history, a man pregnant with a sense of ethics, a man pregnant with values, William Howard Taft." Now this over 350-pound man waddled to the microphone and said very quietly, which was his manner, about this pregnancy. If it be a boy, I will of course call him William Howard after myself. And if it be a girl, I'm going to call her Mary after my good wife. But if, as I suspect, it only be gas, I'm going to call it Chauncey Depew. So I wanted to save you from that kind of, as you all know and have heard, I've had a very blessed life. With the federal government, I was named the Young Federal Lawyer of the Year, the first year that award came out. I was a partner in a major law firm in Chicago. I've been a professor, taught in 6 different continents. I was Dean of Law, President of the University of Notre Dame, Australia, where, by the way, we pronounce it correctly. It's not Notre Dame, it's Notre Dame. How can somebody ask for anything more than I've had in these wonderful blessings? Well, mine has been a life that one of our alumni has referred to as going from success to significance. He said, "You were successful when you were Dean of the Law School and President of Notre Dame, Australia. But when you became a priest, you became significant." And that's the way I feel. So what have I learned that I can share with all of you tonight? On TV, a famous politician gave a speech and said in it, "There are those who choose to be poor, those who choose to be homeless." Within a week of that televised speech, there was a short news story in the New York Times that read, "An elderly woman was found frozen on a grate outside Grand Central Station. She had earlier been sleeping inside the station before guards sent her outside, explaining that she could not sleep on the benches inside the station." The article closed with, "Her death was determined to be cold-related." Somehow, my brothers and sisters, I doubt that that old lady chose to be homeless. There's an ancient Jewish fable. A very religious Jewish man went to his rabbi and said, "Rabbi, O great teacher, when will the Messiah come?" And the rabbi said, "Oh, that's a very tough question." He said, "You're going to have to seek out the great prophet Elijah." So after a diligent search, this man comes to Elijah and says, "Oh, great prophet, When will the Messiah come? And Elijah says, oh, he's already here. The man says, well, where will I find him? He said, he's right now at the gates of our city. And the man says, how will I know him? And Elijah says, it'll be easy. He'll be sitting among the poor. The poor are mentioned throughout Scripture, especially in the Beatitudes recorded in Matthew 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Please listen to these words of Archbishop Charles Chaput of Philadelphia. Every person who is poor, weak, abandoned, or homeless is an icon of God's face and a vessel of His love. How we treat these persons, whether we revere them and welcome them or throw them away in distaste, shows what we really believe about human dignity, both as individuals and as a nation. My sisters and brothers, that woman on the grate outside Grand Central Station was an icon of God's face and a vessel of His love. One night, while I was still dean and still a layman, I was volunteering at a homeless shelter along with a group of students. And outside our Maranatha Temple shelter, there was a foot of snow on the ground, and a fierce storm was adding to the accumulation. Must have been springtime in South Bend. It was approaching 11 p.m., the time when we ordinarily locked the door and turned on the lights so our guests could get some sleep. A little before 11 p.m., an old man staggered in. I don't know his name, so for our purposes tonight, I'm going to call him Clarence. Clarence was dirty, unkempt hair, scraggly beard, filthy, tattered clothes, and Clarence was drunk. He may have been just protecting himself from the cold outside, or more likely, he may have had a bad habit. In either event, Clarence was as drunk as a person can be and still move in a forward direction. As he bounced from wall to wall, we finally sat him down on a bunk. He leaned over to untie his boots, and he rolled off. So we lifted him back up again. He leaned over to untie his boots a second time. He rolled off a second time. Kind of like an old comedy silent movie, except it wasn't very funny. So we set him back on the bunk again, and in order to avoid a repeat, a volunteer took off Clarence's boots. Clarence's socks were soaked. His feet were close to frostbite. The volunteer washed Clarence's feet with ever warmer pans of water. There was no reference to the scriptural washings of feet. We were just trying to save that old man's feet. And when life came back into those feet, we put on some dry socks for him. And as I started to walk back to my overnight station at the temple, Clarence grabbed me and said, "Does God still love me?" I assured him that God still loved him. However, he was not satisfied. And he then asked, even when I drink too much like I have tonight, does God still love me? I told him that God's love is unconditional. This forgiving God of ours loved everyone in that room, no matter what they had done. I felt like telling him that if he'd just go to sleep, we'd all love him, but I resisted that temptation. But assured that God still loved him, Clarence went to sleep. And the next morning, as we had our guests all depart, one of the students asked, "Dean Link, did you know that old man that came in last night? Because he certainly seemed to know you." And I replied, "I've never seen that man before, but I think I know who he was." Clarence was either the Holy Spirit or at least an angel messenger from God, reminding all of us about our responsibility to care for those whom society regards as the least, the last, the lost, and the lonely. I could not help but think of the words in chapter 13 of Hebrews. Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect hospitality, for through it some have unknowingly entertained angels. By the way, we never saw Clarence before or after that night. But none of the students nor I will ever forget our experience when we were privileged to entertain an angel. With regard to the incarcerated, again, we think about chapter 13 of Hebrews. Be mindful of prisoners as if sharing their imprisonment. As if sharing their imprisonment. In the book of Isaiah we read, "He has sent me to bring glad tidings to the lowly, to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and release to the prisoners." Now don't get me wrong. I am not some naive do-gooder who says let them all out. We will always need prisons so we can separate the psychopaths, the crazies, and those people that the prisoners refer to as SOS, which is, for those of you who don't speak prison language, SOS means stuck on stupid. We have to separate all these folks from the rest of society. However, I am convinced that most people who are now incarcerated can be better treated for their social illnesses in community correction centers and houses of healing. They don't deserve to be in prisons. It's not the effective place for them. Please keep in mind that not all prisoners are alike. They are not, as I and many other people had once assumed, they're not bad people given to a life of crime and social deviance. Instead, they are individual human beings who have individual problems and are in need of individual treatment. They're not bad people. They are, for the most people, good people who have made some terrible life decisions. In the movie The Green Mile, how many people have seen The Green Mile? Ooh, good. That's a good crowd. Any of you want to come up and finish this? No. But in the movie The Green Mile, the character played by Tom Hanks says, "Percy, you would be better off if you thought of this place as the critical care unit of a hospital." Hanks had it right. Most people in prison are not bad people as much as they are sick people. It may be a social illness, but it is a kind of sickness that we know how to treat and we know how to cure. Treating all prisoners like they're all the same may be convenient for warehousing purposes, but it is a disaster if you're talking about rehabilitation. Prisoners come from dysfunctional families, poverty, abuse, bad neighborhoods, knucklehead friends, use of alcohol or other drugs in order to deaden the pain of living. The plain fact, and this is the important thing that everybody's got to keep in mind, the plain fact is that most of the people in prison did not fall into the cracks. They were born in the cracks. We've got to realize what their backgrounds are. To put a face on those who are incarcerated, I'm going to introduce you to the talent that is wasted by our prison systems. For example, at one of our facilities, we have a master finish carpenter in the population. Master finish carpenter. He's so good that the warden asked this prisoner to come and remodel the kitchen at the warden's house. The super urged, "We won't pay you prison wages, we'll pay you what you would get on the outside. You are the best, and you will have carte blanche. My wife wants you to put in new appliances, new cabinets, new counters, fit it all together." And the inmate replied, "I'm sorry, sir. I would really like to help, but I can't. You see, that's why I'm in this prison. Counterfeiting." That, of course, is an attempt at a joke. And it was told to me by a prisoner. And I'm going through, I know all these people. I serve them all, and I'm thinking, who is this? I've got to know who this guy is. And I didn't know anybody that had, but it was a joke. However, I will tell you that we do indeed have some very talented people wasting away in our prisons. There are many talented writers, authors, musicians, poets, songwriters, fine artists, craftsmen in our prison. A fine artist at Michigan City Prison, the big prison, or the bad guy's prison, I guess, who did a beautiful portrait of my late wife from a 1x1 square that I took off of a picture. And it's gorgeous. Looks just like her, especially the beautiful eyes. And he's actually done one of me, and actually made me look good. So this guy's got some talent, as far as I can tell. But I'm not talking about amateurs here. There are some very gifted lives being wasted. And I brought this to show you. I want you to see this chess set. I don't know how much you can see, and you can come up and take a look at it. Beautiful chess board, right? All these pieces, playing pieces, if I can find them. All the playing pieces. All of this made by a prisoner out of popsicle sticks. Oh, this is all popsicle sticks. Everything you see there. The top, the bottom. And by the way, he didn't have a lot of equipment to work with, right? He had popsicle sticks and a Coke can. Took the Coke can and ripped it apart to use as a saw. A lot of talent. I want you to look at these caps and scarves. This is one for a baby. Okay? Here's one for an older child. Beautiful color in it. Notre Dame colors. These were all crocheted by maximum security prisoners and donated to the Caps for Kids charity. Over 300 of them. I get a big kick out of these big dudes with all their muscles and tattoos sitting around knitting for some disadvantaged kids that these prisoners will never see. Let me read you an answer to a question. What is the best thing you will ever do? The answer is, I think the most important thing I will ever do is to never get tired of growing and evolving into what God made me to be. If I give up, it's like I quit the race and life has become meaningless. I feel the only way to accomplish this is by a personal relationship with Jesus. It is through that relationship that I receive strength, endurance, and hope to keep moving forward in understanding what I must shed and what I must cling to, so that I will become more of what God has willed me to be. When I get out of myself, I find out who I truly am and what my purpose in life is. It's thus that I am happy and feel a sense of self-worth. That's the end of that quote. My sisters and brothers, that purpose-driven answer was not prepared by some great theologian or by some noted philosopher or even a gifted pastor. It was written by a prisoner who has already turned his life around, but continues wasting away in our prison system. Now, to put a further face on our incarcerated brothers, I want you to enjoy Prison Dreams. Can we do that now? Sure. I want you to enjoy Prison Dreams. This is a short video produced and filmed by Brittany Morehouse, a well-known Washington, D.C. and Cleveland, Ohio video journalist. We're going to just show you this so you can see some actual prisoners. I think we're going to show you that.
I think I'll use your microphone for this. Give me a second.
Do you want the rest of this, Jim?
No, it's all right.
This year we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. If Dr. King were delivering that speech today, he would undoubtedly tackle the problem of the incarceration of over 2 million Americans. It may be hard at times to think about the dreams of prisoners who in some cases have taken away the dreams of others. But we have to realize that many of the people in prison did not fall into the cracks. They were born in the cracks.
I say to you today, my friend,
50 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. shared his dream with the world.
There were probably many in the crowd that didn't want to hear it.
so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow,
But he planted such a seed.
I still have a
He
dream.
planted that seed. If you listened while he was
It is a
preaching,
dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
if you just give it a chance to grow, it would have changed your whole life.
This nation will rise up.
Rise up, two words that symbolize life change and dreams for Damien Guy.
To be self
My dream
that all men
was to become a better person.
A common dream at Westville Correctional Facility in Indiana.
Well, I'd say my dreams while I'm here in prison would be to better myself any way I can, so I'm a better father and a better future husband to somebody.
To
And
be a better father and a better person.
I don't want to be that bad guy. I don't want to be that person that's unapproachable. I don't want to be that person that you can't talk to, you can't trust. I want to be a father. I want to be a son. I want to be a husband. I don't know. I want different things now.
Different things and different dreams than all those other times.
I've been in prison so many times that I'm not even going to tell you here on this camera. But this is so easy. How did I see this before?
I had a dream about getting out and getting back to the things that got me locked up. And subsequently put me right back behind the bars again. but it's so much different today.
My dream has always been to make it to my out date, make it to the out date, get outside the gates, see if I can try, see if I can control my life. It doesn't work.
If I walk free.
Martin Luther King, August 28th, when he laid out "I Have a Dream" speech, that's my main goal as far as just to attack my visions and dreams with tenacity when I get out. Just having the same mindset. If I really had the same mindset over 6 years ago, just doing something positive, I wouldn't be in this situation now.
Why so positive now? Inmates say it starts with a realization.
Realized that, man, life is so much bigger than me. I was so caught up in Brandon that I thought everything revolved around me, and that the earth, the world, humans, community, they owed me. And I just came to the realization that, you know what, it's not about me, that my purpose, whatever it may be, I didn't know at the time, is a lot bigger than me.
They need to be a part of something greater than them, and they didn't feel that way before they became incarcerated. Alone, ashamed. This is a turning point for many of them.
Sometimes I say like I see their heads finally coming out of their rear. And I ask them, did you hear the pop? I think sometimes it's that somebody actually doesn't look at them as like a 6-digit number. And if for us to tell them like, you can do better, you can be better, but to do those things you have to do better. And sometimes it is just saying no to the gang, saying no to the drugs on the dorm, saying no to certain things, saying no to the gambling, or the small things, then they start to feel a little bit better, and they start to feel like there is some hope.
And here, where most of our guys are getting out in 10 years or less, every single one of our guys here, for the most part, has a light at the end of the tunnel, and they have hope. And that's a big step to work with somebody when they have a glimmer of hope.
There's always hope, always. And that's probably my biggest dream, is to try to get that out to whoever I come in contact with on a daily basis.
I think when you step outside of the box and help others, that you've received a much greater feeling. There's nothing that money or words or anything could do besides the feelings that you get inside. My dream here is that, I'm able to be an influence and to help the young guys. I see so many young guys coming in the prison now, 19, 20 years old. They haven't even begun to live their lives.
20 years ago, my family and I never thought prison would be part of my future.
John Hudson dreams of helping fellow prisoners by teaching them yoga.
Firsthand, I know what yoga can do for a person in prison. I mean, it's something that I cannot explain with words. I mean, it's very spiritual. I mean, it's helped me to deal with where I'm at right now.
And several others dream of ministry programs for youth.
Society right now, to me, are basically throwing away the key for troubled children. If you get in trouble, then it's over with. I would like to at least try to change that. Give them a second chance, stop them before they reach this point.
For addicts.
Overcome, because I was an addict. My dream is to get back out and minister the gospel and help people overcome addiction.
For African Americans in Gary, Indiana.
Just want to empower them and give them a sense of, I can do this, and maybe raise the next generation of men. We can break this chain. We can break this cycle of broken homes and, fatherless sons.
Giving back is also a goal at the South Bend Reentry Center, another prison not far from Westville. Here, this garden began as a dream.
We wanted to be able to supplement their meals with fresh vegetables and fruit, and we also wanted to share with the community.
A community they also help on Saturdays through volunteering.
And these guys wait until Saturday morning and they're ready and stoked to go out and volunteer. Some of the tough guys, some of the guys you would think that, hey, he's not going to do it. These guys love volunteering.
All of this a direct result of the center's work release program.
It's a very, very good program, and it ends something very negative on a very positive note.
I seen better days.
but it's limited in scope.
We release almost 18,000 people a year out of this system. Very few go through work release and reentry. So I think that we have a lot of work to do.
One of our primary responsibilities in corrections is rehabilitation. But by the nature of the word, you're assuming that at one point these people had socially acceptable values, morals. The majority of them never were taught that. So you're expecting something from them they can't give. So to rehabilitate something that was never there is the impossible dream. To habilitate takes a while and a lot of effort, but it's well worth it.
Enter the most relevant dreams circling here behind the razor wire. Dreams of how to improve the entire prison system.
And the healing that I pray for is for all of you.
Every offender that comes into the prison system is lacking something that has made them not be able to be productive citizens. And part of my dream as a correctional professional is to make sure offenders leave prison with something that they didn't have when they came in, something positive.
And my dream would be that if everybody would have mutual respect for one another, then of course I'd be out of business. I'd be out of a job, but that would be okay.
My dream is for people to recognize that the guys that in here, that what got them in here, that doesn't have to be their ending.
If we didn't have a dream, then, I feel like I would be like a desperate person. And people that come to prison, I feel like they've reached that level of desperation. And my dream is that they, in turn, find that they can live their dreams, that they don't have to, feel shame and feel guilt and not feel like they can achieve their dreams.
Now, once they have this goal, this dream, how do we get you there? What steps can we take to get here? And that's often the hardest part.
People cease to see us as viable members of society, and therefore not realize that we too still can have dreams that are attainable if we put in some work.
I believe that people in prison have a story to tell. And people on the streets don't want to hear that story because they're still afraid or still mad at us for the crime that we committed.
One of the things that Father Link said is he's going to show this to individuals and help try and get more volunteers to come in. We need them.
One of the worst things that we can deal with while we're being here is not having anybody in the world in our corner.
If you keep people in a prison atmosphere, you're going to keep a prison mentality.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. Hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are.
That all men are created equal.
The Declaration of Independence, as Dr. King said, we're all created equal. We're human. And if you stop and think, and you really seek change, be it higher power, whatever that you choose, I suggest you choose your higher power, that you will achieve it. You will get the blessings that you want, and you will never be the same person ever again.
Table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
I have a dream today. I have a dream that in our criminal justice system, we can replace the punishment role with a healing goal. In my position as a prison chaplain, I have learned that many of the people whose lives are being wasted in our prisons are not really bad people. They are good people who have made some disastrous decisions. I have a dream today that we will be able to reserve our prisons for those people who are dangerous to society, others who deviate from societal standards will be treated for their illnesses in houses of healing. I have a dream that we will be able to interrupt the cycle of crime by helping people turn their lives towards a better purpose, towards being a good parent, towards being a good spouse. I have a dream today for all of our brothers and sisters that they may rejoin our society. I have a dream today.
Okay, this would be a natural time for a break. As usual, we need 10 volunteers to get the pizza out. He is a lawyer, so he can continue to talk, I can tell you that much. We'll wait till the pizza comes. If you could just talk for a few more minutes, continue with your program.
One of the things that you heard about those people on that film, I refer to them, to many of the prisoners, as the pinballs of life. They're shot out into a dangerous machine. They bounce from bumper to bumper. Is this on still? Yes. Okay. They bounce around. They hit a bumper. They go to another bumper. They go into a hole. They learned. They lose some points. They go to prison. They don't know where they're going. You want to know the real problem of most people in prison? They have no life's purpose. They don't know why God put them on this earth. I don't know if you've read any of Pastor Rick Warren's work about a purpose-driven life, but the people that I serve, I don't have a fancy church like Father does here. Mine's not very fancy at all, but the people that I serve don't know why they're here. In fact, I always start conversations with them saying, why did God put you on this earth? Well, they might say, well, it was a mistake. My parents made a mistake. I'm not talking about that. And then they say, well, I was put here to be involved in sales. They're talking about sales of drugs, by the way. I said, no, I'm not talking about vocations or your parents. Why do you think God put you? God doesn't make mistakes. God put you here for some reason. And let's you and I talk about why God put you here. Shall I go on? At a maximum security prison, I was blessed with, at one time, the opportunity to give a lecture on forgiveness, like we're talking about here. After the lecture, a prisoner came up to me and said, I believe in what you just said about forgiving. I have forgiven myself for what I have done. I believe that my God has forgiven me. My family has forgiven me. Even the victim's family has forgiven me. However, there is one person that I do not know how to forgive. Can you help me? Since I have been here in this prison, my former best friend has been sexually molesting my 4-year-old daughter. How do I forgive him? Now, I must admit, my friends, that my first thought was, when I got out, I'd go after that former best friend. But fortunately, a voice came to me. I know you're all going to think I'm a little bit crazy, and my fellow priests know that I'm a little bit crazy, but fortunately this voice came to me, and I distinctly heard that voice say, don't tell him that, you idiot, because that's what he's thinking. Now that voice may well have been the Holy Spirit, except for the you idiot part, which was certainly my late wife. But in any event, the voice went on to tell me what I should say. So I advised the prisoner that when he gets out, he should not go after that molester. I said, if you do, everybody will know who did it. And you will end up back in prison for life. Then your daughter will be without a dad at a time when she deeply needs one. Spend all your time when you are not working taking care of your daughter. My sisters and brothers, I'm happy to tell you that that advice wasn't mine, it was the Holy Spirit's, and probably my late wife throwing in a few things, seems to have worked. That prisoner has brought me pictures of his daughter. He has even brought me letters from his daughter and asked me how he should answer those letters. I'm pleased to report that the prisoner's thoughts are no longer on the molester. They are totally on his daughter and is on his role as a father. And maybe we should end there, because I mean, not end, but take a break.
All right, now it's...
Okay. This is not a Muslim church? Oh, I'm sorry. I am, of course, the Catholic chaplain for 6 different prisons, all the 6 that are in northern Indiana. But I attend all the services. I only say the Mass, obviously, for the Catholics, but I do attend all the others. I attend the Muslim service, the Jewish service, the Asatrus, the Wiccans. I do 11 different denominations. And what happened with the Muslims was that one day the prison leader of the Muslims, an inmate, came to me and said, "We would like you to be our chaplain." And I said, "Well, that's a very nice honor, but I don't know anything about Islamic religions." And he said something I thought was very interesting. He said, "But you're a holy person, and we need a holy person to lead us. We'll teach you all you need to know about Islam, but we need a holy person." And that's kind of where I am, folks. I try to help people of every denomination. The request that I tell you about Bishop Melchek, I was married, by the way. I'm an unusual priest. I was married for 45 years when I was dean and responsible for all these people. But I was married for 45 years, and if you had said to me 20 years ago when I was president of Notre Dame, Australia, that my wife would pass away, that I would go to the seminary, that I would end up serving maximum security prisoners, I'd have thought you had a serious mental problem. I would have said, "Look, I've got some doctor friends that can help you." None of that's in my plan. Turns out it was in God's plan. And that was very different than my plan. So, but what happened was, after my wife passed, I had already been doing some lectures at the prison, like the one on forgiveness, but I had done a bunch of them. And when my wife passed, and I never have said that my wife passed away. She passed over into a much better life, and is here with me right now, and is with me every day in prison. But I started going to the prison every day because I needed to be needed. And Bishop Melchek called me in and said, "I need a Catholic chaplain for the northern prisons. Would you consider it?" I said, "Well," I was in my late 60s, folks. I said, "Well, I was thinking of the diaconate." And he said, "I was thinking of the priesthood." I said, "Well, aren't I too old?" And I'll never forget his answer. He said, "Aren't I a bishop?" He said, "I can do anything I want. If you will agree to be a prison chaplain, I will..." And by the way, I didn't even say this to you before. He came to the seminary that I went to and designed the curriculum. He took their curriculum and he said, "Look, at that time I had 4 doctorates. He said, I don't need you to get another degree. I just need you in the prison as quickly as possible. So he sat down with their curriculum, and he said, oh, you don't need this. You had this at Notre Dame. You had this. Well, I think you'd find this interesting, so take that. So he designed the curriculum. I'm probably the only priest around where the bishop has designed the curriculum. But in any event, he then went into the rector of that seminary and said, this is what I want him to take. I don't want him to take anything else. I need him out as soon as possible, and I want reports on him. I want you to write to me about how he's doing in these courses, which fortunately it all came back to me and I was able to do pretty well, but Bishop Melchek was my surrogate father for my seminary days. But in any event, I do try to serve as many men as I can, no matter what the when I go up onto death row, which I do quite a bit of, if a politician goes up on the row or a reporter goes up on the row, the guys can be pretty abusive, right? I mean, they yell obscenities. Most of them I don't understand, but Father can help me with some of them. They yell obscenities, they throw terrible things. But when I go up onto the row, dressed like this, I'm like the king, coming into the kingdom. I mean, the sergeant yells out, our chaplain is on deck. And they know it's not the state's chaplain because he doesn't want to go up on the row. But I go up, and so I go up, and I'm like the king coming into the kingdom. And I don't mean just Christians. I mean the Muslims, oh, Father, will you come and pray with me? And I'll say, well, you're a Muslim, you're going to hell, but no, I don't say that. I don't say that. No, I serve as many people as I can because I need it. Many people misunderstand the concept of forgiveness. And I know that's a theme of what you're doing at these services. First of all, forgiving is not forgetting. Don't confuse the two. When I helped start a school in South Africa. I met a woman, I don't know her name. Well, actually I do know her name, but I can't use it. But we'll call her Rebecca. Her husband was mowed down in the street by the apartheid government because of a terrible thing he had done, which was oppose the apartheid government. So he was part of what we used to call the Cradock Five, that were mowed down in the street. Since the ANC took over, they've caught the guy that ordered this killing, and he's in prison. This woman, Rebecca, has not only forgiven him, she's working to get him out of prison. And I said, I admire forgiving. I do some lecturing on it. But how do you work to get him out of prison? She said, well, God told me that she said, she's never met the guy, by the way. She said, I don't know what he'll do when he gets out. He's a very powerful politician, and if he does bad things, that's his problem. But if I don't help him get out, it's still my problem. We've got to think about that as the model of great forgiveness. And of course, we got the greatest model in the world in Jesus Christ, right? So forgiving is not about forgetting, and it's not about whether a person is worthy of being forgiven. Forgiving is about the forgiver, whether that person can get the burr out of his or her saddle and get on with life. And that's what forgiving's all about. It's not about whether or not someone deserves to be forgiven. It's about whether we're capable of forgiving. A talented national author, Maura Posten-Zagwins, has written a Random House book about my personal journey from president of the University of Notre Dame, Australia, to prison chaplain. The book contains my draft of a crime peace plan designed to interrupt the cycle of crime. The plan is not about being softer on crime, but it is about being smarter on crime. The book is entitled, somebody's got one, right? The book is entitled, Camarado, I Give You My Hand. That title is taken from the last stanza of Walt Whitman's epic poem, Song of the Open Road. And I'm not going to suggest that you read a lot of Walt Whitman. Many people would consider that to be cruel and unusual. But I do want to concentrate on that last verse of the Song of the Open Road. Camarado, I give you my hand. I give you my love before more precious than money. I give you myself before preaching or law. Will you give me yourself? Will you come travel with me? Shall we stick by each other as long as we live? As we think about that caring father who forgives, as we think about the crocheting cons and others who want to turn their lives to a good purpose, what if we were to stick with our spiritual brothers and sisters as long as we live, no matter what they've done in their immature times of life? What if we turn every aspect of the criminal justice system completely around, from police to post-conviction, change the mission of our systems from punishment to healing? Let me repeat that. Change the mission of our systems from punishment to collaborative healing, as Jesus would tell us to do. What if young people were to say, we're not going to settle for success, we want significance? And there is significance in helping those people whom society regards as the least and the last, but who we recognize are simply the lost and the lonely. What if we were to form Camarado Corps on every campus and in every community in the United States? What if we let our legislators know that our vote depends on changing the system from punishment to healing? What if we all say together, I'm damn mad and I'm not going to take it anymore? I'm not willing to have my tax money wasted on a system that is not only not working, but is doing harm. We all know the answer to those what ifs. We would dramatically reduce the cycle of crime. There would be less crime, fewer victims, fewer lives being wasted, fewer prisons, billions of dollars saved in corrections budgets. Do you know what it costs to run the Indiana prison system? I'm not talking about the federal system. I'm not including jails or community corrections. You know what it costs to run just the state prisons? It costs us $2 million a day. Think if we could save 1/4 of that and put it into education where it ought to be. Judeo-Christian social teaching is about the preferential option for the poor, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, care for those in prison, and forgive. Catholic social teaching is all about action, what we refer to as active compassion. So I'm going to close with a thought given to me by a maximum security prisoner who has changed his life around. Steve reminds us all, active compassion is God's language. Everything else is just talk. Thank you for your attention.